Good afternoon, Facebook family. It's your boy yet again. Looking a little rough, need to get a little haircut. Probably do that this week. At any rate, so I am coming back with another video because I caught another question recently. Somebody asked a question I hear day in and day out about life insurance, which is, what's better to have? Should I have term or whole life? The literal answer to that question is the best policy to have is one in force whenever you need it, because your family's not going to care whether it's term or permanent. If they're getting, $250,000, they're not going to be like, man, he should have got this for his whole life because he died within this age range, or he should have got this for 10 years because he died within this age range. So real quick, I'm going to go over some of the benefits of each. So you have term versus permanent. The way we break that down is it's kind of like renting versus buying. So renting would be a term policy. And in renting, it would be like this. Your term policy is going to last for a certain amount of years. Generally, it starts at about 10 years. So for math's sake, for this conversation, we're going to say 10 years. So you have a 10-year term policy that's $250,000 death benefit. The awesome thing is term is super cheap. So over that 10 years, you might pay a total of, $2,500 a year for 10 years, which is $25,000. So you paid 1/10 of what it would cost to insure you. On the flip side, whole life is more expensive, but there's benefits to whole life. So you get a whole life policy with the intent of living, not with the intent of dying. Someone actually in the past asked, well, what's the difference between life insurance and death insurance? That would be it there. The term policy is more like death insurance, while the whole life policy is literally life insurance. Because you're getting that policy with the intention of living, not with the intention of dying. You're getting that term policy with the intention of dying within X amount of years. So if you're thinking you're going to die in the next 10 years, you get a term policy, because in that 10 years, you're going to die. Or in the next 20 years, you get a term policy, because you're going to die in that 20 years. You would do that to do things like cover certain debts. Like, let's say you get a mortgage. Well, a mortgage ain't gonna last your whole life. A mortgage is gonna last a maximum of 30 years. So why would you get anything longer than 30 years, right? That's kind of the thinking behind that. Whereas a permanent policy builds cash value. So because it builds cash value, you're looking at something that is going to be around and build that cash value for your whole life. Hence the word whole life insurance. So let's take a look at some of the benefits of buying a term policy. So with a term policy, your premium is guaranteed to stay set at that rate for X amount of years. So let's say you do it for 10 years and it's $250 a year. You're going to pay that $250 a year for that 10 years. And during that 10 years, your price doesn't change. Problem is, year 11, instead of $250, it might spike up to $2,500 or $250 a month. Whereas the permanent policy, a whole life, you might still pay $250 a year, but you're going to get much smaller of a policy, but you're going to build cash value, and you're literally locked in for your whole life at that $250. So if you never change anything, you'll be paying that until the day you die. Those are just a couple of things about the life insurance and some of the differences. I hope that answers that question for you. The next thing I want to look at, actually, I know some people who are in the funeral business themselves. I did post a video a few weeks back about a guy by a guy who's in the funeral industry. He calls it the funeral hustle. You can look through the archives and check out that video. Actually, I would recommend you to look through the archives and check out a lot of the videos that I post, because all they are is information for you. You can also actually go to lifefoundations.org, which is a not-for-profit company that will break down life insurance to you. So if you want to look at it from an unbiased opinion, because you might think, well, hey, this guy gets paid off of these policies. Let's do someone who doesn't get paid off of these policies and see what they say. You can do your own research. It's better for me if you do your research if you become my client, because then that's less headache. But at any rate, so I'm looking here. I got a friend who's in the funeral biz, and they gave me a little breakdown. I basically, asked them, listen, I'm trying to plan a funeral. What's the cheapest funeral I can get? He was like, you want the cheapest funeral? I said, yeah, I want the cheapest funeral I can get. So the cheapest funeral that I can get is about $6,000. Now, this is with the actual burial, not with a cremation. It can probably get a little cheaper with a cremation, but not by much. So it's $6,000, and that's for my casket being a pine box. I don't know if anybody has ever buried somebody, but when you bury someone, it's very emotional, and you're gonna want to send them off. And actually, I was picking out caskets when I was there. I was looking at the casket. The casket I want is actually $6,900. So it costs more than this cheapest funeral. And most of the time, people are gonna get the caskets and stuff. And this funeral does not include getting the burial plot or the headstone. Headstones are about $500 to $1,000 for the cheap little ones that go on the ground. If you see these huge mausoleum ones with the big cross and they're 10 feet tall, those are probably like $1 million. I don't know, because I don't do the funeral industry, but those things are cheap. At any rate, you guys know how to hit me up. You can check my Facebook page, Alonzo D. Hall Insurance Advisor. You can call my cell, 212-470-9932. You can call my Brooklyn office, 718-253-5550. With that being said, Black Lives Matter, one love, I'm out.